All right, guys. So we got our first product in from all of the newly announced laptops here from the 2025 Consumer Electronics Show. I never say the full name of it, but for some reason I decided to say that instead of CES. But anyways,
It's all
the
good. It's all good.
Z13 right here. I don't know why I took it away from the product cam to show you when it's right there. This guy is one of my favorite devices we've released in recent years, right? The original Z13, I was a huge fan of it, right? You get the gaming performance in a tablet form factor. It's a tablet and it's a PC all in one, and it's been leveled up.
Yes, it has in multiple ways. So I mentioned this, I think, in our Q&A last week. By the way, guys, if you have not seen our Q&A stream from our post CES Q&A stream, go back and watch that. A lot of good stuff in there from a lot of questions that you guys asked. I'm seeing people already ask, when's the release date for this? I don't have an exact date yet, but we're looking at February, sometime in February for on shelf for this or thereabouts. So
Nice.
yeah, that is when this is on its way. And this thing is a beast. I'm not going to introduce any of this stuff. I think we should just start unboxing it and we can kind of talk about it as we go. I know Jake's been waiting for this for too long. He's got this in the mail.
It's been
like 2
sitting on
weeks
my
ago.
couch
We
for
had
like
too
2
much other
weeks,
stuff
yeah.
to do. We've never gotten a sample this early.
No,
This is probably the earliest we've
Usually
gotten
we're
one of our
waiting.
samples.
I just love the packaging. I think it's really cool. Looks really nice. And you can see it's all nicely wrapped up still. Got this little plastic tab to pull up on. Slightly different style on the back here. Love this new opening. There used to be one kind of on the corner, but now it's kind of more central with a slash. Get that plastic out of here and the ASMR crackles. Hopefully it's coming up through stream. I know people love the crackles. For those who dare, says in the slash right there. And of course, with the Z13, you have the detachable keyboard,
which we will talk about a little bit.
Yeah, we'll get into all this stuff.
I want to point out something on the back, and maybe you can. We're not going to show off like a bunch of software and stuff today, but you can turn the device on. That window on the back, that's like kind of that iconic piece of the Z13, is even bigger this year than it was on the previous version, which makes it look so cool. The other cool thing about that is because we have that window, it actually gives us a little bit more like vertical space in there for some of those components right there. So it's actually functional as well, which was important because the motherboard is very densely packed. We'll talk about that too. So let's talk about what is inside this bad boy, because that's what is really exciting about the Flow Z13 this year. It's got a bit of a new chassis, got some of that stuff, but this comes with the new Strix Halo chips from AMD. So this is, there are two SKUs, one with an AMD Ryzen AI Max Plus 390, which is 12 cores, and another which is an AMD Ryzen AI Max Plus 395. Now, this is an all-in-one CPU, right? It's got a CPU, a GPU, and an NPU all on one kind of chiplet-based processor, right? What's particularly special about this, I mean, AMD's been making APUs for a long time, and their APUs have always been good. That's what we put in the Ally, which I don't have here with me because it's in my bedroom because I've been playing it too much. But what's special about the Strix Halo chips is that their performance is kind of off the charts compared to a lot of previous APUs. In fact, the graphics performance of the Strix Halo chip in this tablet is on par with a lot of dedicated laptop GPUs, which is crazy for an integrated graphics solution. Now, we can't share exact performance numbers just yet, but trust me, it's a whole new level of integrated graphics performance. Plus, it has that built-in NPU if you're doing any AI stuff as well. So it's a full Copilot Plus PC and all of that. Now, this one chip solution has a few advantages, okay? And again, we talked about this in the Q&A because some people were asking about it. When you have a separate CPU and GPU, right, you can get really good graphics performance from that solution, but you have to drive two separate chips, which uses a fair amount of power. As a lot of you have probably realized with your gaming laptops, right? If you want really good battery life, you got to turn off that dedicated GPU to kind of stretch the battery as long as possible. With one chip like this, it's much more efficient, which gives you better battery life just across the board. Now, the Flow Z13, the 2025 version, also has a bigger battery too, which helps extend that battery life even further, which we'll talk about that a bit more in a bit too. The other advantage to this single chip design is the memory. So the Z13 is available in a few configurations, but the highest configuration is up to 128 gigs of LPDDR5X 8000 memory. 128 gigs
Insanity.
of memory in a tablet, in a 13-inch tablet.
My desktop has a 4090 and it doesn't even have that much memory. Like, that's insane.
So yeah, exactly, right? And that's two things to say about this, right? One, I know some people have speculated that this 128 gig version is just like a special, like we'll only make like 2 of them or whatever. I don't know what the quantity is going to be, but my understanding is that we will actually sell that version. It will be on sale in the US. So if that's a thing you want, especially if you're like using this to train AI models or something, like you could do that because you can allocate that memory between the CPU and GPU as you see fit. When you have a dedicated GPU, it usually comes with a fixed amount of VRAM. It'll be 8 gigs of VRAM, 12 gigs of VRAM, 16 gigs of VRAM, whatever. And you can't change that. With this machine, you have that big pool, whether it's 64 or 128 gigs or whatever SKU you buy, you have that big pool of memory, and you can say, I want this much for the system, and I want this much as VRAM. And you can change that depending on the task at hand. So that's really nice because if you're playing high resolution games with really high resolution textures, you could decide how much VRAM you have, which I know is like kind of a hot topic today, right? Some people want a lot of VRAM. With this, you choose how much VRAM you have. With that 128 gig model, you can allocate up to 96 gigabytes of it to VRAM, which at that point, you probably don't need 96 gigs for gaming. But if you're like training AI models or something like that alongside your gaming, you can allocate more VRAM, reboot the machine, and you're good to go. Very similar to the Ally, if you guys are familiar with how the Ally works, because that's an APU as well.
Bro, did you see that new boot animation?
I did not. I was busy talking.
Okay, so we have our classic like ching, kind of animation when you boot up.
Yeah.
This is a totally different sound, and it's a different logo with a new animation. It says "For those who dare," and it's
All
it's,
for the.
it's,
Oh
it's
no, I did see that. Yeah. That is cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's just for the Flow or if that's for all of our laptops this year.
I'm so curious. I would assume
We get to see a lot of pre-production stuff, but sometimes things like boot animations aren't finalized yet when we're seeing like the early samples. And you were not even in Taiwan with us this year when we got to see it. So, yes, this is 8,000 megahertz or megatransfer RAM Ice Vixen. So it's pretty speedy, which is important again with a one chip solution, right? Like this, right? So all of that is a lot of power for a 13-inch tablet. And as you would imagine, you also want some really good cooling to go along with that to keep up with it. So we did a couple things here. The first thing we did is that we shrunk the motherboard down on the 2025 model and made it super dense. You guys can see more about this in our big CES event presentation, but the short version is by shrinking the motherboard and densely packing everything on it, we got more room for A, that larger battery that I mentioned earlier, which gives you better battery life, and B, it allows us to put larger fans in it. So we have 2 fairly large fans in the Flow Z13, which helps us cool that chip better. Now, in addition to the larger fans, this is pretty cool. We have a new vapor chamber in this as well. The bulk of the vapor chamber is still made from copper, which is typical for a vapor chamber, but we also used stainless steel on the outside, which serves 2 purposes. One is that stainless steel is lighter weight, so using stainless steel for a portion of the vapor chamber makes the whole device lighter weight in general, which for a 13-inch tablet is important. The other cool thing is that stainless steel doesn't conduct heat as well as copper, so it acts as a sort of heat shield to keep heat away from the display panel and the main board. So we're able to like route the heat around critical areas and directly to the heat pipes and heat sinks to keep the screen of the tablet cooler to the touch, which is nice. Again, very important for a device like this. Maybe not as much for a laptop where you're not touching the screen or whatever. But also in a laptop, you wouldn't have that problem because the screen is just a screen. Here, the screen's on top of that motherboard. So the more of that heat you can divert away because you're using the touch screen, the better. Dude, that window. Look at that.
It's cool.
Beautiful.
I'm just kind of getting some mood lighting up in here.
Nah. So Speaking of the screen, we are once again using a 2.5K Nebula display. Though this year we've upped the refresh rate to 180 hertz on the 2025 Flow Z13. Otherwise, it's very similar. It's got 500 nits of brightness, all that stuff. We did use a special glare-resistant Gorilla Glass DXC screen coating on top. Again, that helps keep the picture crisp by reducing that glare, but you also get extra protection. Again, this is a unique device. It's a tablet. It's not just a laptop. So you want it's meant to go everywhere with you. You want something that's going to be durable. So we wanted a really good kind of protective glass on the front of that touchscreen there. And Jake is the type of person that brings this with him everywhere. So
It's true.
this is a good plain device for gaming.
This is the best plain device for gaming because you just use Bluetooth, or even if you want to use a normal like dongle with a controller like your iCarry Pro, you sit there on the plane, you got a 13-inch panel. There's the animation again.
Oh yeah, that is good.
And it's just such a good experience.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the core. I mean, the Flow Z13 is not a. This is a new design for it, but we first came out with it in I think 2022, and that was kind of one of the things we thought is like, okay, this is supposed to be super versatile. You can use it like a tablet. You can use it like a laptop with that keyboard cover. You can use it with a game controller as kind of like a little portable kind of game console thing. You could plug it into an XG Mobile at home and dock it to a full. I mean, you could totally dock this to the new XG Mobile with an external monitor, keyboard, and mouse, and it's an at-home battle station.
Can't wait.
Yeah, I think that's a really sweet use case for the Flow devices still. Even though we've gotten rid of that XG Mobile port and gone with Thunderbolt, like it's still so the XG Mobile used to be kind of like part and parcel with the Flow series. They were like buddies, and now the XG Mobile is useful for everything, but it's still just. I think it's still so at home with the Flow series because of how portable it is, and especially for this device because it's so powerful and because it has all of that memory. Like it's just, it would be really, really cool set up at home as kind of a tablet turned desktop. Storage, good question. People are asking about storage. Let me double check on the storage. I believe it's 1 terabyte, but it could be 2. 1 terabyte of storage on on this thing. There are multiple SKUs, and this page is too small. All right, hold on. I'm gonna sear my eyes with the white. I'm gonna check the US page to make sure I'm talking about actual SKUs. Here we go. Here are all the SKUs. So yeah, there's a 32 gig RAM SKU and there's a 128 gig RAM SKU in the US. I believe there's one in between those as well, but doesn't look like that one's being sold in the US. All of them have 1 terabyte. That's a 1 terabyte PCIe 4.0 NVMe, like M.2 SSD, the 2230 ones, the smaller ones. But you can upgrade that yourself. It's very easy to upgrade in the Flow Z13. If you want 2 terabytes of storage in there, you can definitely pop 2 terabytes in there for sure. RAM is soldered on this because it's a 13-inch ultra slim device. That's just, you can't get away from soldering RAM on a thin and light device like this. I always tell people if you want something with upgradable RAM, definitely look at our Strix series, especially this year with that new easy upgrade like toolless design. We'll be looking at that in a few weeks, months. Are you playing Ski Free on the?
It's in the update.
Oh, this is like included in the
like while Windows is
That's
doing
cool.
updates.
That's awesome.
I've never seen this before. Oh, I already died twice. Playing on touch is a little hard to see the screen. I could do down here. No, it wants me to touch in the window. That's interesting.
So Corvo1 asks a good question. So let me get to this in 1 second because there is something that if we finish updates in time, I can show you. You'll see that Jake is now using the keyboard cover. One note about this is that this has been upgraded as well. The keyboard cover has larger keycaps and a larger touchpad than the previous version. So that's a nice addition to this year's Z13 as well. Now, a lot of tablets cut down on ports, which means you have to carry dongles and stuff with you. Jake mentioned that earlier. We didn't want to do that this year. So we actually have some pretty serious I/O on this for a 13-inch tablet. You've got 2 USB Type-C ports with USB 4, DisplayPort 2.1, and Power Delivery 3.0 supported. You can charge up to 100 watts with the Type-C on this device. Now, for faster charging, we also have our new Asus Slim Power Jack that Jake is using here. That's that little rectangular jack that we introduced on last year's Zephyrus models. That can charge at 200 watts, which will get you to like 50% in 30 minutes with this thing.
So good.
We also have a USB Type A port. Hallelujah. As Jake mentioned, you could use that for a traditional keyboard or mouse. You could use like our Omni receiver, hook up a keyboard and mouse, or you could use that for like the Raikiri Pro wireless controller, which is probably what I would do there. And this is probably my favorite part, HDMI 2.1, a full-size HDMI port on a tablet. Don't let anyone tell you it's not possible. There it is. Now, Corvo N1. I know that was a long way to get. I wanted to mention the ports because also on the side, we have a command center button. So this is very similar to what we have on the Ally. We do have Armory Crate on this device, but if you hit that command center button, you'll also get quick access to a lot of settings. I know that there is a quick settings button built into Windows already that was kind of designed for tablets. You get like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and some of that kind of stuff. And you still have that, but our command center button is basically invoking some of those Armory Crate functions, and so it should give you more options. I'm not actually positive if you can change operating modes from that, but I would assume so. I can double check for you live. I'll do it live because I actually not seen the final command center on this device yet.
The updates are taking longer than I thought they would. I'm sorry, guys.
I kind of had a figure. I didn't expect to show off software today because of that. So
I was hopeful.
Yes, you confirm you can change the performance profiles through that command center. You don't have to like open up Armory Crate and do it manually. So, as for battery life, I struggle to like just try to give a specific hour value. What we're promoting on the site is 10 plus hours of battery life. That's usually like regular usage, web browsing, things like that. Gaming will be different. Your usage will be different than my usage, which will be different than Jake's usage. So unless you have a very specific testing methodology that you compare between your devices, you'll have to kind of see how what it is like for your usage. But for just kind of regular web browsing type stuff, it's an all-day battery for sure. And then and you can adjust in Armory Crate how much power you're using to kind of adjust that based on the tasks at hand. Support for external storage, Pyromancy asks. Yeah, I mean it's a Windows device, so you could easily plug in an SSD if you want to do that for sure. We do not have a second. It's like, again, you could easily upgrade the SSD in there. It's not like a whole process. I believe there's just like a little door on the back that's held by one screw.
That's how it was in the previous one.
It's how it was in the previous one. Can you check this one? Let's see if there's a spot. There should be a spot right there for you to upgrade the SSD. If you want to expand the storage. But then if you want more, you can easily use an external drive. Yeah, if that's what you're asking, because it's just Windows and it's got USB-C in there.
Little tiny door right there with a screen.
There you go. Okay, sweet. Perfect. I got nervous for a second.
Even says M.2 on it.
Yeah. So try and make it clear that that's where it is. You also do have a micro SD card slot on this, so that can kind of be considered a method of storage expansion as well, especially if you aren't using. I mean, if you're like a photographer or whatever, you do video editing, obviously you'll want that micro SD card slot for those kinds of things. But if you don't do that, you could easily throw another terabyte into the device that way too, right? For things that you don't need necessarily. I mean, it's going to be fast, but it's not going to be as fast as the SSD. So you could totally throw an SD card in there too. Throw a 2 terabyte drive in there, throw an SD card on there, carry an external storage drive. If you want to do that, you got lots of options. We need a versus between the Z13 and the ProArt PX13. We won't be doing an unboxing of the ProArt PX13 on this channel, but I will say it's a good device, especially if you liked the previous Flow X13, which we do not have an X13 for 2025, but rather we don't have an ROG version of the X13 for 2025. But that PX13 is kind of, in essence, the successor to the Flow X13. It's a great device. You can definitely go check it out if you prefer the clamshell 2-in-1 design with the 360 hinge rather than the tablet with the detachable keyboard. But I know a lot of people have really kind of fallen in love with this particular form factor. Jake is definitely one of them. So,
dude, the gaming performance you get on something so portable, like it's just so nice for travel and for laying in bed, all of the above. And one thing I always talk about that people don't consider, I carry this thing. I don't know if this is what it was intended for, by this handle. It's not really designed to be a handle, I don't think, this little opening in the hinge, but I always carry the device by that. And it's just very comfortable.
Way to promote carrying the device in a way that's not officially sanctioned, Jake.
Look, that's what I do. Don't be like me.
What are the max watts that it can perform? Corvo N1 asks. So this is a good question, and again, like this is not necessarily an apples to apples comparison because it has that single chip Strix Halo design. The way that AMD is measuring the SPL for this device is for the entire SoC, not just for the GPU. So you can get up to 80 watts depending on the power profile you use. In manual mode, you can push it all the way to 80 watts SPL, but that's dynamically allocated between the CPU and GPU as needed. So it's a good amount of wattage for sure. And again, like the performance on this is really good for especially for a 13-inch tablet, but even for just a regular gaming laptop, it's pretty solid. So because it's such a new type of architecture, you're going to want to kind of play with it a little bit yourself and see what you can get with it. Reviews will come out, obviously. And I know that there have already been some previews, but more in-depth reviews will be coming soon when I think the final review units are going out to, journalists and YouTubers pretty soon. So keep an eye out for those and you'll get a better idea of kind of what this thing could do in action. Now, obviously, we'll be showcasing it on this stream as well. I'm just not able to share like specific performance numbers and things like that. I'm not even sure if I was supposed to share that wattage number, but I did. So there it is. So yeah, keep an eye out for those kinds of things and you'll get a bit of a better idea of exactly what this thing can do. But I will tell you, it's pretty awesome. I'm excited to check it out if I get a chance to.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to game on it. One of the things that I always forget about with this device, the fact that it does have that rear facing camera too, like the fact that you could just have this in your bag and even more ways to record content. Really cool. Gonna be a lot of fun to play with this. We'll be showing it off on stream soon, TM.
Soon. So this is the new Flow Z13. Oh, I guess I should mention, also comes with Wi-Fi 7, dual cameras, all that good stuff, and of course, PC Game Pass, so you can start playing games for free on day one, which Jake will be doing as soon as he gets his final unit in hand. This is one of our pre-production units.
Even has this text on the back.
We will be doing some gaming on it in the coming weeks and months. Jake usually games on this channel Tuesdays and Fridays or so. Thursdays is when you have this show. And by the way, if you watch the full stream, you get more than just this 20 to 30 minute main topic. We talk about what's on shelf that week. We talk about what products are on sale. Today, we'll be talking about the new games that were announced at Developer Direct. So if you want to see that, you got to tune in live on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific to see the full show. If you're watching on YouTube after the fact, you're just getting part of it. So come on over to our YouTube and Twitch channels. Follow us on social media. Join our Discord. That's a great way to hang out with the community and stay up to date with the latest news and announcements.